My name is Alex Norsworthy, and I'm from West Kentucky.
You know, the very essence of the mental game is this. The only reason an event matters is because we make it matter.
Welcome to the Mullins Farrier Podcast.
Every horse, whatever it was doing, had a season. Once their competition season finished, they took the shoes off, they chucked it out in the field with some other horses, and it had a 2, maybe 3 months period where it went and remembered what being a horse was all about.
Even in a cheaper area, your prices should be set by your skill level, by your experience. And some people might not feel that they're worth, as much as others. But if you're only charging $160 to shoe a horse, then the only way you're making money is on your trims.
The WCB was a way to make sure that you kept the trade alive. I think I'm a custodian of the trade, so it's like we have to keep it going.
It was hard, but you adapt and overcome, and that probably gets to me where I am now. It's problem solving. Horseshoeing's problem solving, and back in the day it was problem solving how to be as strong as the older apprentices. So it's all about adapting and overcoming, which was good.
I know we learn every day, but you do have to put yourself outside the box and just continue to learn, which is why I was just trying to do my fellowship, because I still have apprentices, and if I stay at my AW, I'm stagnant.
Welcome, everyone. I hope you're all doing well this busy time of the year. I have a lot to cover today in the shopkeeping portion, but the interview is actually quite short, so I feel like the two will even out in the end. As I said just a few seconds ago, it is a busy time of the year for us. And as we grind it out and do as many horses as our clients put upon us, sometimes it's hard to remember why we're doing the job we do in the first place. It's easy to get lost in the never-ending sea of horses, and suddenly this very cool career that we have starts to feel more like a job. As you've heard me and several of my guests say over the years, 2 of the very good remedies for this problem are competition and certification. But sometimes you need to take a break from horses and horseshoeing altogether. And that's what I have attempted to do this summer by taking up mountain biking. For years, I have told myself that I didn't have time for a hobby, so I didn't make time. But this summer, I've started to. And the results have been pretty cool. I've even been able to go for a ride with Kathy Lesperance, who, as you know, is a former guest on the podcast. And during one of our many discussions on that ride, we both commented on how much better we felt horseshoeing because of the physical activity we were doing in our off time. Many of the other guests have also shared their off-duty pastimes, like Kenny Hoyle with his dirt biking, Riley Kirkpatrick with his hunting, and of course Danny Bennett with his mountain biking, although I'm pretty sure he prefers to take a lift to the top of the big hills. So I was thinking, in an effort to show your fellow farriers that it's okay to not shoe horses 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and to have a pastime after work, that we would do a little social media exercise. Post a picture of yourself doing your favorite after-work pastime and post it to your social media, and tag the Mullins Farrier Podcast in your post, along with the hashtag #OffDutyFarrier. I'm looking forward to seeing what you guys come up with. For the next item, I'd like to thank the following folks for supporting the podcast by buying us a virtual coffee. Alexander Werner and Kendall Black. Thank you so much for your support. If you'd like to support the podcast by buying some swag, this is the time to do it. Until July 4th, you can receive 15% off everything with a $79 purchase. In both the Canadian and the American stores, use the code Canada15 to get the discount. Or you can always buy the podcast a coffee. Please see the links in the show notes. The folks at the Ontario Farriers Association wanted me to let you know that their convention is September 28th to 30th at Lumberdy Fairgrounds in Lumberdy, Ontario. Riley Kirkpatrick is coming down, and he's the keynote speaker and the judge for the contest. Keep an eye out on their Facebook page or go to ontariofarriers.ca to get more details on this event. And exactly 1 month after that convention, I'm heading across the pond to watch the International Horseshoeing Competition at Stoneleigh and hang out with the cool folks at the British Farriers and Blacksmiths Association for their Focus Convention. You too can come, and I highly recommend that you do. As always, the International will host the best teams the world has to offer, and there's a pretty stellar list of keynote speakers for Focus as well. Look at all the details online at forgeandfarrier.co.uk. And now for today's guest. Alex was another member of Vern Powell's crew of clinicians for the Puerto Vallarta Clinic last December. Like myself, this was Alex's first trip down to Puerto Vallarta, and she fit in perfectly with the group. So well, I think, she stole the heart of one of the veteran clinicians. I would refer you to her Facebook page for more of an explanation. As in any situation, when a group of farriers spend too much time together, there becomes a plethora of inside jokes. And farriers being farriers, some of them can be inappropriate or dark. One of those jokes found its way into this interview, and I couldn't let it be omitted. You'll hear Alex mention an embalming table that she purchased from a scrapyard. And the joke was that embalming table had come from the local funeral home, where Alex's late grandmother may have spent some time on it. For the rest of the trip, it was always brought up as Meemaw's table. Well, folks, buckle up. As I'm sure you can already tell, you're in for a wild ride. I hope you enjoy this conversation as much as I did. And is that where you're originally from?
Born and raised.
Yes. And I heard that this is your first time ever leaving the country.
It is. It absolutely is.
Yeah. I think we discussed this in my previous interview, but we'll cover it again. How did you end up here in Mexico?
I went to convention for the first time a few weeks ago. I need to go back to previously. I got really, really burnt out under some horses and mad one day. So I was like, I need something to calm me down. And I was looking through podcasts and I found yours and started just listening to as much as I could of it. And I was like, man, maybe I should go to convention. So
cool.
I did. I met Vern and some really cool people. And then he was like, hey, you need to come to Mexico. And at first I was like, there's no way I can make this work. And my nephew was looking at me one day. He was like, why don't you go to Mexico, Aunt Alex? And I'm like, why don't I go to Mexico? Okay. And I booked the trip that night. Called all the clients. I was like, sorry, we're going to have to move you for a minute.
Right. Yep. It's winter. It's easier to make that happen.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's raining. Been raining for the last 5 days. So I'm really glad I'm not home.
Okay. You say West Kentucky, and you said that you're in an area where there isn't a lot of education or people pursuing it.
Mm-mm.
And what type of horses are you working on? What's the environment like?
We do have a university there in my hometown. It's Murray State University.
Okay.
So that's pretty cool. I do some horses there, mostly Western horses. There's not a lot of hunter barns or anything.
Okay.
You're just not going to find that. There's the closest city is Nashville. It's a few hours away. Mostly Western horses. I mean, a lot of people just have pleasure horses and they enjoy them. I shoot a lot of cutting horses. Those are great on your back. It's just kind of a mixed up plethora of everything.
Right.
Yeah, you just get a little bit of this and a little bit of that.
Now, for context for everybody, when I hear Kentucky, I automatically think Lexington and I think thoroughbreds, right?
Yeah, no.
So how far away would you be from that area?
5 hours, maybe.
Okay.
Everybody thinks oh, Kentucky, that's cool. I'm like, no, I'm not in the cool part. I'm on the west in the Tennessee line.
Okay.
It's home, but it kind of sucks if you're a farrier there.
Right.
It's not that great.
In that, you're also in an area where you can't charge very much for shoeing, right? The average is not...
And not towards the national average, no. But you also live cheaper than you live anywhere else in the country too. So it kind of helps out a bit.
It does even out, do you think?
A bit, maybe. Yeah, because I look at the prices of things in the bigger cities or bigger areas and I'm like, wow, how do people live?
So even food and things like that are cheaper, do you think?
I would say so.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. How did you become a farrier in the first place? We won't talk about Beba, don't worry. Or maybe we should. So you have a special type of table in your garage.
Oh, God. In my shop, yeah.
And what kind of table is that?
It is an embalming table. This is going to follow me the rest of my career. You know that.
And what do you use that embalming table for?
Cutting up meat.
Because apparently it's like perfectly set up for that.
It is perfectly set up for it. It's a stainless steel table with the lips so the liquid can go down a drain. What other perfect thing can you find at a scrapyard?
Yeah.
Bingo. I didn't know it was an embalming table when I bought it until the guy looked at me really weird out the door. He's like, this is an embalming table, right? And I was like, okay. I still want it. Perfect.
I still want it.
I got bleach.
Yeah.
It works.
Now, you have done quite a few dissections and stuff. Like, you're also using this for learning anatomy and...
Yeah, the best I can. Because we don't have a lot of education there. So it's not like you can like run over here and just do a dissection real quick. You just hope a client's not attached to his old horse and you can have it when he does.
How does that conversation work out?
Sometimes you have to really gauge people to ask them. Like if you know them pretty well, you just, Fluffy's going to die next week. And my next question is, how attached are you to him? And what do you plan on doing with him? And they know me well enough that I'm a freak. They're like, yeah, you can have him if you want him. I had another lady, though, and her horse had a massive keratoma, which was really cool.
Oh, wow, yeah.
I really wanted it. And I did ask her very lightly because she's a little bit crazy.
Yeah.
She's cool, but she's a little crazy. And I did kind of ask her, like, you have plans for the legs? But no, Fluffy had to go with all of his legs because I guess he needed them. I don't know.
Yeah.
Whatever.
So a lot of your education has been self-taught, right?
Yeah.
So how did you get your start in the first place?
I went to school in Oklahoma at Ardmore.
Okay.
Like 10 or 11 years ago. And Dave Goodman and Ty Kester taught me. That was a fun time in my life.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had some crazy times, but it was cool. I was pretty immersed in it.
Yeah. And how long was that course?
8 weeks, 6 weeks, something like that. It wasn't probably as long as it should have been. It was what I could find at the time. So if you want to go back before that, when I was 14, I got my face smashed by a horse, like straight up. Sammy Sosa.
I saw the MRI. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, baseball bat to the face. It was a horse, actually. So my left eye waters really bad. And I go blind in it when it does. It looks like I'm crying all the time. Later on, as I was turning like 20, 21, like I really needed a career. Like I was like flat out on my knees. Like I need a career. What am I going to do? Because I was working at Walmart and I hated it. Like I hated all of it. I had previously worked on a ranch in Nevada and had shot a horse or two, like cowboy shoeing. It's a wonder she could walk whenever she was done, but whatever. I was like, this is kind of cool. It just hit me like, you need to be a farrier. It's like, no, there's no way I could do that. That's for like big men. So long story short, I had this guy call me out of the blue that was a friend. He was like, I heard you wanted to be a farrier. I'm like, yeah, but I can't afford it. I looked up schools. There was no way. Not going to happen.
It's a lot of outlay right off the bat.
Right off the bat, yeah. So he said, if you've ever been in an accident or injury, go to the Arkansas Rehabilitation Center and they'll help you. So I give it a shot. And I walk in and she's like, well, I was like, I'm wanting to continue, like get a career. She's like, what are you going to do? And I told her and she's like, well, have you been hurt? I'm like, yeah, my face is all smashed up and I go blind in my eye sometimes. So she called my doctors back home and they sent her x-rays and all this stuff. And she called me and she's like, yeah, you've been accepted into the rehabilitation program and we're going to pay for 100% of your education.
Wow.
And a lot of your tools. So I was like floored.
And this is a state you don't even live in.
Well, I did live there at the time. They got a hold of Miss Marcella and kind of back and forth and bam, here I went. And then Miss Marcella also got me a grant, another grant on top of that. Like my cup ran over. Like the doors just started swinging wide open. So I knew that was the avenue I needed to take. That's just how like God took the worst thing that ever happened to me because that almost killed me. Like that kick was bad.
Right.
And then turned it into probably the best thing that could have ever happened to me.
Right.
Because it like opened my career up. And then like the doctor that put me back together, he's one of my clients now.
Really?
So there's like a little touch of humor in that. So.
Yeah. You leave school. Did you start apprenticing with somebody or did you just hit the ground running?
I did a little bit of both. I apprenticed when I could. I kind of like traveled a lot. There was a guy in Phoenix named John Smith that was from where I'm from. And I got to go work with him a bit. That was pretty cool. I got to travel and I just kind of gypsied around and then I had to eat. So it was time to
hunker down and
start hurting, like start working. So I did. And then I got my client base built up and I've got like a great client place now. I get to do wonderful stuff. But now it's like, okay, it's time to start pursuing my career, like my education.
Obviously, because you're in an area that you can't charge as much, the only way you can make money is by numbers, right?
Yeah, for what I can charge and then what I make a day. If I can't live off of that, I better have a closet full of cocaine and hookers somewhere because like I'm blowing through some stupid money. It's not like I'm getting rich doing this, but it's plenty enough for me to live on. I mean, I'm not married. I don't have any children. So it's not like I've got to pay for anybody but myself.
Right.
It's pretty easy. And then I can back off of that at any time, like working, and then just jump in and come to Mexico if I want to, because
Right.
why not?
For sure. What do you think led to that moment where you were under the horse and you're like, I think I'm burnt out?
I guess it had kind of been coming for a while. I wasn't necessarily burnt out. I like to have goals constantly. If I don't have a goal that I'm working towards, I'll get myself in trouble if I get bored. That's just my personality. I have to have something to be working toward.
Hence the potential for a closet full of hookers and cocaine.
Getting bored's not a good thing for me. I've got to be working towards something.
Right.
I mean, this is probably the best thing I could possibly be working towards.
No kidding.
So why not? Let's just go this avenue.
You're right.
Cool.
You started your certification process too?
I've been studying for my certification process. I haven't taken any tests yet. I'm a terrible test taker.
Are you?
Yeah. I haven't went that far yet, but I'm
Working towards that.
pretty much ready to, I would like to go to one of the pre-certification clinics.
You should.
Yeah, I definitely want to do that and spend some time on my shoe board, which I'm sure is going to be really shoddy.
They all are at the start until we learn, what to hone in on.
Yeah, and more time in the forge. I've got a forge at home, and which I get in it. But when you have somebody there personally, like, this is where you're screwing up, other than like you're just trying to watch the whole video at the same time and like not completely throw your phone and break it.
Yeah. Videos have changed the game for everybody, but there
Yeah.
is something way more to having somebody who can see what you're doing and
Yeah.
point out the subtle things that you're doing wrong that will make all the difference in what you turn out.
Yeah.
Well, I look forward to seeing you at a pre-cert someday then.
Yeah, I will. I'm going to be at one.
And the only way to get over the test nervousness or whatever is exposure therapy, I think. You keep going to them.
Keep going to him. Yeah.
Because I was not a good under pressure person either. Still am not in many situations, but going and doing exams like that and having somebody, like being under the clock and having somebody look at your work and tell you where you've gone wrong, it doesn't matter how many times you fail, you get a little bit more confident in even the process because it's not such a scary thing.
Yeah. The more you do it. Yeah, absolutely.
And I remember sitting in the room when we were at the Heartland doing the exam and the examiners had come in, and Mark Thorkelton sat down and he was like, I was in your seat years ago and I know how nervous you are. We are here to help you pass. And all of a sudden you could just see the entire room's shoulders relax and breathe a sigh of relief. And that is exactly what the examiners did, testers, everybody did for us, was help us pass. And we didn't all pass, but
See, I've heard so many horror stories from older guys, and they're like, yeah, if you take the exams, they're just trying to fail you. Like, they want to fail you. And I'm like, oh,
I think that was a different time.
I guess so.
What's next on your bucket list?
Today, I really want to be on a zip line before the sun goes down. I'm not going to lie. And maybe have like a lot of margaritas on the beach.
Oh, okay.
That's today's bucket list.
Okay. And how about 6 months from now?
I would like to compete.
Oh, good.
I feel like that would be a good exposure to getting over some of my foolishness. And it's cool because when I went to convention, like I was kind of quiet. I didn't really know anybody. And then I met 3 or 4 of the right people, and it's just like, boom, they all kind of like took me under their wing and was like, this is this. And like Megan Coyle, I love her.
Yep.
Her enthusiasm is contagious.
Mm-hmm.
And I mentioned competing to her, and she's like, yes, absolutely. You're going to now. Like, I felt like with Megan, it wasn't even a choice anymore. Like, it's going to happen. Okay.
You said the magic words.
Yeah, that was great. I would like to maybe do that.
Cool.
Let's see what happens.
This portion of the podcast is called the Stratum Tectorium. These are the short answer, surface stuff questions, but it's okay if the guest wants to go deeper. Enjoy. What's your favorite book?
Oh, you're going to think this is weird. I'm an avid reader.
Oh, are you?
I'm
Okay.
a nerd. Absolutely nerd. And I like philosophy. The Giving Tree.
Cool. Who's that by?
I don't know. It's a children's book.
Oh, okay.
And as you read it as a child, like it's a children's book. It's not very long, like maybe a sentence on a page. But if you read it as an adult and you don't almost get teared up, something's wrong with your soul. I'm just dead serious. Yeah. That or anything by Rudyard Kipling.
Okay. Cool. Favorite brand of nails?
I've been a Liberty girl for a long time. And then I started using some Cons. I kind of like them.
Okay. What shoe sizes do you generally have to stock the most of?
These little Western horses have little feet. So we are a lot of double aughts. I'm really happy if I get a 1 or a 2.
Are you?
Yeah. I'm like, oh, this is cool. It's not a common thing, but these little cutting horses just are tiny. And even in Kirkart, you got triple aughts. It's just, they're tiny.
What is your dream farrier rig?
What are the trailers that you slide the floor out and walk up into them?
Oh, yeah. I think that was Purdy built that did them originally. Yeah, I think a few companies have done that since.
I want those. I have a trailer now. It's a box trailer and I have issues with it, but I like the ones that open up on the sides, but a lot of my places I back right up to it and I want my horses 2 feet outside of my trailer. Like I'm not walking. If I'm walking, I'm mad.
No steps, yeah.
No steps, nothing. So, but a lot of my places I have to back up and it might not be covered.
Right.
So if I'm opened up on the sides and it's raining, I'm having to walk out through the rain. I'm like a cat. If I get wet, I'm mad too. So
Okay.
I want to walk into the trailer.
What's your favorite make of rasp?
Are you tired of hearing the green tang?
No, hey,
Okay.
I
I'm
just
liking
want
those.
honesty.
I use a lot of those. I hate when they get clogged up, but I'm really bad about like finding something I like. And that's like all I stick with. I try anything. Like I won't try anything.
Oh, really?
It's terrible. Yeah. So I should probably like, there's some other rasp I've tried that I'm like, yeah, I need to use this more. And then
You back to the green
I'm
tag.
back at it. Yeah.
Do you hand make shoes at all?
Okay. So if I made a handmade, I'd be really disappointed in it right now and I wouldn't show anybody. So right now, keg shoes are where I'm at.
Okay. What's your favorite brand of keg shoes?
That's going back to, I've been a Kirkart girl for a long time. I've got some Cons. So I don't know yet. I've been trying them out a little bit and I kind of like them, but it's up for debate.
Right. Okay. Which line of Cons?
The certifiers, keggers,
Yeah, there's the 2 that I know of anyway.
the
Yeah.
keggers, I believe.
Okay.
Those are the ones that I've tried so far.
So what's your ideal number of horses to shoe all around in one day?
Probably 5. No more than 5. If I can get like 3 or 4 sets and some trims, I'm cool. That's where I like to be. I'm not hurting at the end of the day.
That's a good day.
Yeah.
What's your favorite pastime after work other than cutting up the dead?
Ooh, playing with dead things. Pastime, I like to make knives.
Oh, do you?
I've kind of been playing with making knives a little bit. Yeah. I've got my master smith is a really good bladesmith. So I try to spend time with him if I can.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. I hunt. So I have a bunch of nieces and nephews, like a herd of them. So
Oh, okay.
I like to hang out with them.
You're the favorite auntie?
Yeah, I'm the crazy aunt. It's fun.
So what's your favorite anvil?
I have a little NC that I've had since school that I can like pick up and kind of sling around.
Yep.
And that's not my favorite though.
Oh, okay.
I actually have this big anvil I got at an auction like 3 or 4 years ago that's super old. And it's a good bladesmith. It's 150, 60 pounds. I can't figure out the English weight.
Oh, right.
It
Yeah.
stays in my shop.
Cool.
And I think it's an old hay button.
Okay.
Is that correct?
I think that sounds
My
familiar.
anvil knowledge is not very great. I have 3 of them, but like I'm like these are big things I can bang things on. Cool.
Do you have a favorite inspirational quote?
I'm not armed for that question yet. I can think of like 50.
Do you have a farrier terrier?
Yes.
He or she comes along with you?
She is a celebrity. Yes, she's a border collie and her name is Wasp. And she is well known through West Kentucky. Like for real. She has all my clients trained exactly the way she wants them. She's extremely well behaved and smart. I have clients that aren't even dog people. And by the 3rd time I show up, they're like, oh, it's Wasp. We got you cookies and treats and Christmas presents. I'm like, you kidding me? She runs the business, like hands down.
Yep.
It's hers.
Do you have a favorite shoe or package for mystery lameness when the client doesn't want to pay for like a vet diagnosis?
I think when in doubt, go with pads.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, what's it going to hurt really for the most part? And then if that doesn't work, like, okay, let's go deeper.
And what's the pad setup you typically would use?
Depends on the season. I like leather.
Okay.
I like a pour in, and I do like pour ins, but if it's so hot and humid, like they seem to set up and get too hard. So I get to be really careful with that.
Right. So if you're stumped on a case, who do you call?
I'm very fortunate. I have a whole list of people that I've called for this or that. That's a long list. Like I talk to Vern a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I'll just like send him a message on Facebook. Even if I'm not on a case, I'm just like, this horse sucks and I hate him. How's your day?
Yep.
You know, I have that. Jordan Martin's a good friend of mine. He's down in Ocala and I talk with him a lot about cases. He's pretty interesting to talk to. And And then there's a whole list following that. So,
Right. Cool. Yeah, it's good to have a good team behind you.
yeah.
Bunch
for
of
sure.
phone to friends. So what do you use as your planner?
I'm pen and paper. So I have the same binder like that I use as my planner since I was in school, since like 11 years. So it's completely falling apart. I need a new one. Hint, hint, Oklahoma. I can't find them anywhere else.
You heard it here. Favorite method of soothing aches and pains?
I love my chiropractor a lot. I love a massage therapist if I have time to book an appointment. I love ibuprofen. And I love alcohol. You put them all together. It's fantastic.
What is your favorite drink?
Depends on where I'm at. This week it's tequila. During deer season, it's whiskey.
When in Rome, wherever Rome
Anything
is.
but beer.
Oh, really?
Hate beer.
Oh, man. Okay. Favorite genre of music?
Take your pick. Anything but country.
Anything but country.
I don't like country music.
And you're from West Kentucky.
I like Tyler Childers and some not mainstream country, but as far as mainstream country, it's the worst thing in the world. I would listen to classical music before I listen to country music pretty much. And I like classic rock. And if I'm foraging, like Metallica.
Oh, okay. Yep.
Depends.
Do you work out?
Hell no. Yoga. I do yoga.
Ah, okay. Well, that's almost the same. What would you have been if not a farrier?
I like diagnostics. Maybe I would be smart enough to go into the medical field.
Yeah.
And I really like psychology. Maybe I'd be crazy enough to be a psychologist. One of the two.
I could picture that.
Hannibal Lecter.
Yeah. The COVID question. If you were stuck at a shop with somebody for a month, who would you want it to be?
Simon Curtis.
Oh, cool.
I guess that's a tall glass of water. Like, he's brilliant.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Your brain would be definitely full.
Fried. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, thank you very much for taking the time to do this.
You're very welcome.
In the middle of a construction zone.
In the middle of Mexico.
Awesome.
Before I let you go, I wanted to tell you about another podcast I think you should listen to. This one is also hosted by a farrier, but his guests don't always share our profession. They're just inspirational folks whose stories he thinks we should hear. If you haven't already, check out the Final Approach podcast with host Chris Gregory, CJF, ASF, FWCF. Until next time, take care of yourselves and each other out there. We'll talk soon.